It's so easy to pass by here every day. Not every day, every other day, or every 3 or 4 days. But it's not easy to pass by here without thinking about it, or waking up at night and thinking about it. I see them back in the church, laying on the floor. Somebody just took them away.
Is still in a state of shock. Almost everyone in Spring Bluff knew the Swains. They can't believe this has happened.
It is solved now by the arrest and conviction of this man that's in jail. Personally don't think that this guy committed that crime.
Harold Swain and his wife Thelma were at a mission meeting at the Rising Daughter Baptist Church when they were gunned down.
What I discovered was that there was this other suspect who had been a suspect in 1986, but had been dropped because he had an alibi.
I don't care. I want to be left alone. Leave me alone. Do not call me anymore.
I've written about probably a couple hundred homicides. And what really makes this one stand out is, you know, it's a double murder in the church of these two people who are universally loved in the community.
Oh, they were good people. Real good people. I mean, I didn't know anything bad about them. Not either one of them.
I knew the Swains personally, and they were wonderful people.
On March 11, 1985, a white man walked into a predominantly black church in a tiny community called Spring Bluff in Camden County, which is near the Florida border. It's in the piney woods. It was a Monday night Bible study and mission meeting. And it just so happened that Harold Swain, a deacon at Rising Daughter Baptist Church, was the only man there.
Vanzola Williams was leaving the church when a man with long blonde hair approached her and pointed to Swain, saying he wanted to speak to him. Williams went on her way and left the two talking.
And before I could get the car door open, I heard the shots, 4 shots.
Harold's wife, Thelma, was also there, and she ran to her husband's aid. And when she got there to the vestibule, she was shot, and both of them fell dead in the vestibule.
Police are just as baffled.
We don't have a motive at this time. We feel like the individual might have been transient.
I was dispatched. I was at home, and I was dispatched up here to a shooting. When I went in, it's something you can't unsee. First thing I saw was Harold laying on the floor, and Thelma just down from him a little bit, both of them. There was blood. You know, I just took a second to see it, to grasp it. Everybody was upset. Where this crime happened, the people that it happened to, we had to solve it. It was just imperative that we solve it.
Meet every need. God, you say iron sharpen iron. And God, the man of God you called me to be, I'm standing on your promises, Father, that you will supply every need.
This community, man, they still right now today is well knitted together.
In Jesus' name, amen.
The good thing about this neighborhood or this community is love. Back in the days that he was living with the Harold, they used to have church. They used to go to from church to church. That's how they used to fellowship. And it was just that particular night, man, they came to have Bible study. And it's sad that you come to do what God said, and you lose your life for doing the work of the Lord.
The first real viable suspect in the eyes of the detectives who came up was a man named Donnie Barentine. And Donnie Barentine, according to the detectives, was involved in a drug trafficking ring that was known for running, untold amounts of cocaine and marijuana from the Caribbean into Southeast Georgia. The investigators were told that there was an inmate in the Telfair County Jail, which is north of Camden County, had a story he wanted to tell. The story he told was that a couple weeks after the murder, there was a party down in the Florida Panhandle. And at that party, Donnie Barentine walked in, waving around a 9mm handgun, saying, God can give, God can take away. And he said he'd taken something, and that was the lives of 2 black people in the church.
He said, you'll see it in the, y'all see it in the news. And he said, up there in church, he said it was the black church.
And they spent years and years focusing on Donnie Barentine, trying to figure out if they could somehow get him on these murders. They never succeeded. Dennis Perry, at the time of the church murders, was not living in Spring Bluff. He had lived in Spring Bluff before that. And how Perry initially came up in the case was in 1988, someone came forward anonymously telling a story about him. What that story did was put him on the radar of the 2 initial investigators on the case. So they had to check him out.
We just couldn't put it together that he was here. We talked to his supervisor. His supervisor was vouched for him that he was at work on a particular time, at that particular date. Personally, don't think that this guy committed that crime.
Slowly, the case grew colder and colder until in 1998, a new investigator was brought on, and within days, he identified Dennis Perry as his main suspect. So Dale Bundy began his investigation, he says, by reading through the case file. And he says that while he was reading through the case file, he started to suspect that nobody had gone back and re-interviewed the witnesses from the church since the time of the murders. And he thought, well, maybe they've heard something since then, so I'm going to go talk to him. So he goes and he meets with a woman named Cora Fisher. Cora Fisher had been in the church at the time, and she, as the shots rang out, she fainted, fell between 2 pews. So slowly Bundy works up to it, and he says, Cora, do you think you know who killed Harold and Thelma? Cora says, I don't think anything. I know who killed Harold and Thelma. And Bundy says, well, his world just stopped right then, right that moment. And she says, well, after Unsolved Mysteries did an episode about the murders, a white woman came to my house and showed me a picture, and I took one look at it and fainted. And Bundy said, well, who was this woman? She said, well, she lives in a trailer over on Highway 17. So Bundy sets about knocking on doors, and he says that when he finally found Jane Beaver, she opened her trailer door and said, come on in, I'll tell you what you need to know. And she tells this story. She says that Dennis Perry used to date her daughter before the murders, and they had broken up after he moved to Jonesboro because he didn't have a car. And Jane Beaver says that there was one day when Dennis came by the house, that she says this was about 3 weeks before the murders, and her daughter had stepped out of the room. She was there with Dennis. And she says that Dennis tells her that he had asked Harold Swain to borrow money and that Harold had laughed in his face. So Dennis said that he was going to go kill him in retaliation.
Now, 15 years after Harold and Thelma Swain were murdered, Camden County Sheriff Bill Smith has even more reason to think about them. That's because the couple's alleged killer is now behind bars.
I always thought that somewhere in these files there was the clue that would sort of unravel the whole story. And I've got to thank Mr. Bundy again for bringing that information to light.
And I love that picture. It's one of my favorite pictures of him. This is a picture of him and his dad and his brother and his sister in Pennsylvania. His dad just passed away. So, I mean, he's missed his dad, his mom, his nanas, his grandpas, you know, he's missed everything, you know, their death, their life with them. And he loved his nana now. He thought she was a piece of gold. This is when we got married. This is one of my favorites. It ain't a good picture, but you get what you get in there, and you thank God you got it. Yeah. I've known Dennis probably all my life. You know, at one point, I just always knew that he meant something to me, even back a long time ago. He was a real happy-go-lucky person. He loved life, lived it to the fullest. He loved to fish. He loved his nana and he loved his papa. You know, when all this happened, it was just a shock, like, no way. Because he's such a caring person, I've never known it. I have never ever seen him mad, ever. He can't help where he's at. You know, he's not there by any means of his own, and I will be there anytime he needs me, and probably a lot of times he don't think he needs me, but I'm gonna be there.
When I decided to look into this story, it had been 34 years since the crime. It had been investigated and re-investigated, and so many people had looked at this. One of the things that piqued my interest was there was this podcast that had been done about it, a podcast called Undisclosed. Undisclosed uncovered a lot of new information in the case. One of the biggest discoveries that they made was that Jane Beaver had been paid $12,000 in reward money for her testimony. And the defense was never told about that. What they also find out is that Jane Beaver's daughter, who had dated Dennis, did not believe that Dennis Perry was guilty. So when I decided to look into this case, I read through the case file, about 6,000 pages, court records. I read through Perry's petition, which is a lot of the trial transcripts and a lot of other documents and affidavits, things like that. And what I discovered was that there was this other suspect, a man named Eric Spar, who had been a suspect in 1986, but had been dropped because he had an alibi. But I was interested in this man because his first wife had come to the police and said that he told her that he committed the murders.
Hey man, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on?
I really appreciate you being willing to talk with us.
No worries.
If you could sort of just tell us who you are, and yeah, we'll take it from there.
Okay, I'm Caleb Head, son of Eric Spar, and now deceased Emily Drury.
What did your mom tell you about Eric?
I asked, I was like, you know, what's the deal with him? And she finally told me, you know, what kind of person he actually was. He was a woman beater, you know, he was a racist, and, you know, and she did not want her kids to grow up in that kind of environment as well, you know.
And did she tell you at that same time anything about the church murder?
She once told me about how he admitted that he had murdered 2 people in the church, and they actually had him on recording saying that, you know, he had admitted to killing the 2 people, and that he wouldn't think twice of knocking somebody else off if he needed to.
His second ex-wife, years later, would come to the police and say that he talked about committing the murders. So this seemed strange, so I wanted to see, could I confirm this alibi? And this alibi said that he was working at Winn-Dixie on the night of the murders, that he had clocked in the afternoon and did not clock out until very early the next morning. One thing about the document that contains the alibi stood out to me. It said that the manager of the store had told the investigator that he spoke with other people who were at the store that night and remembered Eric Spar being there. That seemed strange to me because at the time when the manager said that, it had been a whole year, a solid year. I couldn't tell you where I was a year ago. Most people couldn't. I certainly couldn't tell you where my coworker was a year ago. And on the document, the name of the manager was Donald A. Mobley. And for Mr. Mobley, they had a date of birth, a home address, social security number, work phone number, a home phone number. As I started to search around, I couldn't find any evidence of there ever being a Donald A. Mobley who lived in that area. So I knew I had to speak with Eric Spar.
What is the point of all this? I mean, the police investigated, they searched our house. When they realized my ex-wife said that because she was mad, they charged me with terroristic threats.
Well, there was someone else who also said that you told them you did it. But I'd just like to say...
Let me tell you something. I've never said that, nor would I say that.
Okay.
Nor do I condone anybody killing anybody, except maybe to, protect their own life.
Right.
And I don't condone anybody killing the Swains. I had black friends over there.
All of this was really strange, and when the Georgia Innocence Project found out what I had learned, they decided to investigate it themselves, and they also decided to try one additional thing, which was to check the lone DNA in the case against Eric Spar to see if, by any stretch of luck, he might match. And the DNA evidence comes from a pair of glasses that were found in the vestibule next to the bodies. These glasses were very worn out. They'd been used by somebody who was a welder or worked on cars or something. They were really beat up. They were also made from several different pairs of glasses. And stuck in the hinge, there were 2 hairs. And the police, from the very beginning, knew that these hairs could be significant because they were Caucasian hairs. Everyone in the church was black. Dennis Perry was tested against the hairs, and he did not match. The suspect who the initial investigators had long focused on did not match. So one day they sent an investigator to his house, and he was not there. His mother was there, but his mother gave a few hairs for the test. A few days later, I get a call from him.
If it was you, I sure wouldn't have appreciated you coming doing that.
Well, damn sure ain't me. Hell no. No way. No way.
And they said our DNA would be the same, so they just got a sample from her.
As we were, getting off the phone, one of the last things he said to me was,
"This DNA will prove that I didn't do it, and you'll have your answer."
The DNA matched to someone in his maternal line. Now, Eric Spar is the only person in his maternal line who is known to have allegedly told multiple people that he killed Harold and Thelma Swain. So after the DNA match came back, the Georgia Innocence Project decided to file a court motion arguing for Perry's release, suggesting that this DNA match is very compelling evidence that Dennis Perry is not guilty. Hey, Eric, this is Josh Sharpe with the Atlanta newspaper. How you doing?
Why are you calling me?
I have a couple things I need to tell you real quick. But before I do that, I wanted to ask you something. Do you know the Barrentines used to live on Post Roads? You hadn't heard of them? So I also wanted to ask you, in the case file, there is information that said you were working at Winn-Dixie on the night of the murders. And
Hey, mate, it may have been, dude. Look, it's been so long, I may have told you the wrong place. I'm not going to sit here and go into all this. You got your DNA thing. That was you that came by and got that?
It wasn't me.
It was,
But listen.
or somebody you sent. Look.
I didn't.
I want to be left alone.
But let me tell you something, Eric. The DNA test was done by the Georgia Innocence Project, and it showed that your mother's hair matched the DNA found on a pair of glasses next to the bodies. And I want to see how you can explain that to me.
Look, I have no idea. I don't have any glasses missing. I want you to leave me alone.
Emily told the police in 1986 that you had a pair of glasses just like that. And
I don't know what she told them, and I don't care. I want to be left alone. Leave me alone. Do not call me anymore.
okay, well, I just want to let you...
I want to leave this world knowing who did this. One day, we'll know for certain. We'll know for sure. One day.
After 20 years behind bars, Dennis Perry saw his conviction overturned, and he was released in July. While tossing the conviction, a judge said the evidence against Spar was more compelling than the evidence against Perry.
He's gonna take your stuff.
I did. Susie. I got it.
Come in.
I feel good. Free. I feel free. I told my wife I was going to pray myself out of here. And that's what I done. Because I asked God for some help.
It's okay.
I just want to go home now.
We're going to go home. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here for this important day.
Let's go.
It's amazing.
Where's my phone? You okay?
Come on. I want to show you.
Give it to me.
You okay?
Hey, Dennis.
Yes.
You know, I enjoy being home. You know, just being able to go outside when I want to, being able to get up when I want to, being able to go to the bathroom or go to the refrigerator when I want to, you know. And the kids are awesome. We have 4 grandkids, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 great-grandkids. Great-grandkids. Being released and feeling the freedom, you know, that I didn't ever think it happened. No. And but it did, and it was awesome. And, you know, I go back and I look at that recording, you know, almost every day.
Of you walking out?
Yes. You know, and there'll never be another day like it. because that was the best day of my life. Besides being with my wife.
But you were with her that day.
I was, you know, and with her every day. So that's why every day will be the best day of my life from now on.